Hello, I'm Andy and welcome back to Pentor Cars, Cornish car collectors, where you join us for something a little different. You see, my commute to work is around 66 miles. I live just inside Cornwall, and if I decide to cross the Tamar River over the Saltash suspension bridge, it's a 66-mile journey to Exeter, where I work, or 49 miles if I decide to take the ferry link across to Plymouth. Now, I usually do this drive in my Rover 75 diesel, but occasionally I take one of the cars from the collection because, well, it's good to give them a run and because I really enjoy driving them. And that made me think, how do these modern classic cars compare to more modern cars on a commute to work in 2021? So welcome to the first in the series of commuting to work in a modern classic. So as you join me on my drive to work and in this series, we're going to look at some important commuter car factors. Items such as practicality and reliability. What's the miles per gallon of fuel economy of these modern classic cars, and are they reliable? And are they reliable enough to be your trusted daily drive to work companion? Comfort, really important, because when you get to work you need to jump out of your car fresh and ready for the day's work ahead. We'll look at onboard technology, particularly the sound system, because that's what keeps us commuters entertained when we hit the inevitable traffic. We'll also look at performance, because we all like a bit of go in our commuter car, and important issues such as where do you store your commuter coffee and your commuter snacks. And finally, the question that we don't want to say is important but really is, what does your modern classic commuter car say about you when you get to the office? Today then, and to start the series off on the right foot, I've chosen this, our beautifully restored metallic Oxford blue Rover 800 Vitesse Sport. This really is the British-built senior executive car of choice from the late 90s, so very in keeping with a commute to work. Thanks so much for joining me on the drive to work today. Please don't forget to hit like, subscribe if you haven't, and do let me know in the comments below what you think of the Rover, what you'd like to see in these commuter videos moving forward, and well, anything really about the channel. It's great to hear from you. Right, let's get a few miles under our belt and report back on the Rover. So we're about 15 miles into the drive and on to practicality and reliability. So fuel economy first of all. Well, I've owned this Rover now for a couple of years and driven it probably around 1,000 miles. So I can tell you that the car returns around 30 miles to the gallon, which is pretty standard for a 2-litre car of this period. But that's not the big story here. You see, last night I took this car and fueled it up ahead of driving up to Exeter today. And when I got to the petrol pumps, I faced the dilemma that's facing, well, all of us modern classic car drivers at the moment. Do I put in the new E10 unleaded fuel or the more expensive higher octane premium fuel? And the answer to that, honestly, is I don't know. Social media and much of the press have gone mad about the damaging effects of the new E10 petrol in older engines, and this has got the T-Series 2-litre engine, so I have no idea if it's good, bad or indifferent for this car. So I took the safe option and opted for the high octane 97 fuel, and that was £1.51 a litre, over 20p more than the standard fuel. So when it comes to fuel economy, the Rover and the fuel consumption is not the issue. It's the cost of the fuel that you've got to put in this. So if anyone knows more about it, please say in the comments below what this car will run on. But for now, it's on high octane fuel and well, it's driving really well. On to reliability then. Well, it's a Rover, so we have to deal with, let's put to bed, any concerns about the head gasket. Now this is a T-Series engine, the Rover T-Series, not the K-Series. So the good news is that this car suffers far less from any kind of head gasket issues, and if it's well maintained, well, we've got no worries. Phew. On to the wider reliability. Well, as I said earlier in the video, this car's been fully restored. It's had new cam belt, new water pump, full service, a new clutch, brand new tyres, all within the last sort of 500 miles. So really, this car should be as reliable, if not more reliable, than something quite a lot more modern than this car. But that's famous last words, isn't it, really? So let's hope that we don't cut next to me broken down at the roadside. Fingers crossed. Moving on to comfort then. Well, the Rover 800 was built to be a comfortable long distance car, and this Rover Vitesse is no exception. It's fitted with the very attractive and very comfortable half leather, half Silverstone fabric Recaro leather seats. They're so supportive and comfortable. They are a little bit harder than the leather seats, which were the option if you bought the Vitesse Luxe, but if you did that, you missed out on these lovely seats. So I'm very happy and very comfortable where I am. Also holding on to this leather clad large Rover steering wheel, which I believe also featured in the Range Rover of the time, and with this very well positioned armrest. It's a very comfortable car in a place where I'd be happy to cover lots and lots of miles. Let's talk about technology then, and the all-important stereo in our Rover 800 Vitesse. And the first thing to say is that this is a very high specification car for the late 90s, a range-topping model. And as such, it comes with all-round electric windows, electric mirrors, and an electric sunroof. We've also got a nice oval analog clock and steering wheel mounted controls that actually are on the steering wheel and not on the steering column. The stereo is the fairly standard of the time Rover cassette radio, which works nicely, and it's got the orange display, which is in keeping with the rest of the instruments here in the car. It's a bit of radio too for you. We're a Rover driver after all. But the best bit of tech in this car, and the thing that absolutely fascinated me as a child back in 1991, you see, my dad loved Rovers and had a couple of Rover 800s, and back in 91 he brought home his brand new flame red Rover 820 SLI, which I thought was just about the best car I'd ever seen, and I was absolutely fascinated by this lovely panel of what is now very retro buttons. Now, being an SLI back in 91, my dad had some blanking panels here, but not in the Vitesse. We got the whole suite of buttons, and this is where we control the air conditioning, which actually blows really nice and cold in this car. We've also got a button for the heated rear screen, and we even operate the rear wiper from this control panel. It's just brilliant. So on to performance, and for those of you who know this area, we're about to get to the bottom of what we call Holden Hill. So coming from the southwest into Exeter, you reach quite a long hill. It's about a mile incline, and it's where you give your car a really good test. Now the intention is you go in at the bottom in top gear and you see if the car is still performing at the same speed at the top. Now we've got a bit of traffic here today, so I don't think we're going to be able to give it the full test. However, we're doing about 55 miles an hour, and hopefully we get to see how it goes at the top. But as for performance, well, this is a Rover Vitesse Fastback Sport. So everything about the name tells you this is a quick car. Now it's got the T16 turbocharged Rover engine, the 2-litre turbocharged engine that puts out around 197 brake horsepower. And that gives us a 0 to 60 time of 7.3 seconds and a top speed of 143 miles. So this car's no slouch. And whilst it doesn't corner particularly well, I mean, this is a huge car. It's 4.9 meters long, and weighing in at around sort of 1.4 kilograms. So it's a big car, it's a heavy car, and whilst the suspension has been stiffened, it still doesn't like cornering at particularly high speeds. We're stuck behind a lorry, so we can't give it the full test. But as I say, this car not really built for cornering at high speeds. However, as a commuter car, spending most of its time on the dual carriageways and motorways of the UK, it's a very capable car. It doesn't embarrass itself at all, and it keeps up with modern traffic very, very well. In fact, with those performance figures I said just now, it could embarrass quite a few modern cars. And here we go at the top of Holden Hill, and the car's really picking up speed very, very nicely as we overtake that lorry that held us up. So from a performance perspective, this modern classic gets a big thumbs up. So on to where to store our commuter coffee. Well, back in the 90s, people were smoking on their drive and their commute to work far more than they were taking a flash coffee on their drive. And in keeping with that, the Rover has a very large ashtray with a very satisfying opening and closing motion. There you go. And no cup holders, so it doesn't get any points for where to store this coffee. But it does have nice large door pockets to store your commuter snacks. So on to the question that we say is not important, but really is. What does or what did this car say about you when you got to the office back in 1999? And for that, we've got to cast our minds back. 1999, the millennium bug is looming. Britney Spears has had the biggest selling record of Baby One More Time. And the long-awaited Star Wars Episode 1 premieres. And to be honest, it was a bit rubbish, albeit none of us wanted to admit it back then. You drive into work and you park in the work car park in your Rover Vitesse, and you're surrounded by some BMWs, some Mercedes, some Audis, some Mondeos, and even a few of the brand new for that year Vauxhall Vectra. You hear on the radio the news that the Rover Group is concerned about the plans and what's going to happen to their Longbridge plant in Birmingham. But good news, BMW are going to put an extra 2.5 billion in. Phew. Rover are launching new models, the Rover 25 and the Rover 45. But you also hear that Rover sales are down 35% on the previous year. But a new model's coming, the Rover 75, to replace your aging Rover 800. So things are looking okay for Rover at this point. Sales likely to pick up. And as you park and as you start to walk away from your car, you turn around and take a look back, because it is a pretty thing. And there, parked in the car park, yes, it looks a bit dated, but is your beautiful metallic Oxford blue Vitesse with the big 6-spoke 17-inch alloy wheels. Car looks just fantastic. You go into the office and inevitably you're going to have your colleagues say to you, I can still see you driving an old Rover then. And yes, you are, but you bought British, and what a car you bought. The very last model, the swan song of the Rover 800 in its final year. Yes, it's depreciating quicker than the share price of Bearing Banks in the mid-90s, but what a lovely car. And you go about your working day with a big smile. This car from me, again, a big thumbs up. Okay, we're in Exeter and it's time to sum up our drive to work in this classic Rover 800 Vitesse. And I got to say from the off, I absolutely love this car, and I've loved the drive to work today. It's been brilliant. Yes, okay, so this car is quite dated. In fact, there's an NREG Audi 80 driving past us now. I don't know if the camera picked that up. We might be pointing the wrong way, but nice to see another classic car commuting to work there. But as I say, this car does feel dated. It's hard to believe actually that my regular driver to work, my daily, my Rover 75 diesel, is only 4 years newer than this car. It feels a far more modern car. So this does look and does feel dated, but we've got to remember this car's kind of heritage goes right back to the early 80s. But as a viable daily driver to work, well, this car absolutely stands up and makes the point that it is possible to drive and run a modern classic car every single day. It's been brilliant. It's not embarrassed itself in traffic. The temperature gauge has held really nicely. We've consumed very little fuel. In fact, I'm quite impressed, and that's good because it's £1.51 a litre. So as a modern classic to commute to work in, this car really is a very sensible option. The other thing I'll say about it is that people are now genuinely really pleased to see it, because when was the last time you saw another on the road? I hope you've enjoyed joining me on this modern classic commute to work. Thanks so much for coming along for the journey. Please do watch out for other videos in this series, and also watch out for our full feature on our Rover 800 Vitesse, when we'll tell you a little bit about the restoration work we've done to this car. As said at the beginning, please do like, please subscribe, and please leave us a comment on this video. Thanks so much for joining me, as I said, and I now need to go and do a day's worth of work. So from me and from Pentor Cars, Cornish Car Collectors, we hope to see you again very soon. Bye for now. Bye-bye. Okay viewers, if you've held on until the end, then you'll know already that we had a pretty poor run coming eastbound on the A38 up Holden Hill. So we're now on the way home. We're going to put the car at 70 miles an hour, there we go, and we're going to climb Holden Hill going westbound. Oh, we got a lorry in front of us. Hopefully we can time this right, because the road does split into three in a moment, down to 60. That's a shame, but still we can give it a good performance test up this hill. Come on Rover. Remember, nearly 200 horsepower, turbocharged 2-litre T-Series engine. Holden Hill's a real test of cars in the local area. Here we go. Okay, 70 miles an hour. The ascent not too bad here, but it really starts to get tough the nearer you get to the top. Come on Rover. Remember the goal, keep it in 5th gear, and let's see if we're still doing 70 miles an hour at the top. Oh, I can just feel now a bit more resistance, but no, look at that, look, 70 miles an hour, holding well. Going past the Exeter Racecourse Junction, for those of you who know this area. This is where it really gets difficult, but look at that. 70 miles an hour from the bottom to the top. Holden Hill Challenge. Well done, Rover. Thanks so much again, everyone, for watching. Do join us again at Pentor Cars, Cornish Car Collectors. Once again, from me, bye for now. Bye-bye.